Good evening, and welcome to a special episode of Moen After Dark here on the College Football Mafia family of networks. Uh, Kind of a shortened week this week because of the Easter holiday, so we wanted to get some content out to you guys. And I think we've got some interesting stuff. Of course, as always seems to be the case, these slow news days hit right when we're getting ready to present some stuff. If you have not heard as of yet, the House settlement has been held up pending roster limits being grandfathered in. Um, Basically, they have no choice now. They've got to do it. They ignored her orders once. Now they can no longer ignore them. It has to be done. And it sounds like, from what we're hearing from a little bit of news tidbits that are coming out, that they're going to do that. They're going to go back to the drawing board, and they've already started cutting people for roster limits, but apparently they're going to have to go back and add them back to it. So um, that should be interesting. But one of the main reasons I wanted to come on here tonight is to go over. I spent the last couple of days game planning, talking with my team, and coming up with a new scheduling format. Assuming the Big Ten and the SEC move to 20 teams, assuming that the Big 12 also moves to 20 teams, um, this is how it's going to work. And we'll jump right into it. Let me just make sure. Get it loaded here. The name of this presentation is Consider Them Rolled. If you're unfamiliar, ESPN at one point told Jim Delaney he was rolling the dice if he did not take their offer. Jim Delaney replied, "Consider them rolled," and changed college athletics, especially in the media world. And as a result of this, I am calling this the Delany Plan, um, as a way to honor Jim Delaney and his take no prisoners type of attitude. As you can see here in the AI generated image, we've got Greg Sankey and Tony Petiti. They're at the craps table. They're rolling those. They're going for that hard eight. They like that hard eight, but better payoff. So, but let's take a look at it. So the structure of the Delaney Plan. We've got 9 conference games total. Everybody has 3 protected rivalries. You have one primary rival. For example, in Michigan's case, it would be Ohio State. Then you would have 2 secondary, historic, or regional rivals. In Michigan's case, it would be Michigan State. And in this case, we're saying Notre Dame did join the Big Ten. Notre Dame joined the Big Ten. Miami joined the Big Ten. Those are your 20 teams. Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia, they joined the SEC, and that's their 20 teams. After your 3 protected rivalries, you'll play 6 rotational games out of the remaining 16 conference members. Each team will play every other conference opponent at least twice every 4 years, home and away every 8 years. There will be 3 out of conference games total. First one, the big one, Big Ten SEC out of conference game, scheduled as a home and away series with focus on marquee matchups. For example, USC Texas, Ohio State Alabama, UGA Michigan. If applicable, will protect historic rivalries. So in this scenario, we're saying that Florida State goes to the SEC, Miami goes to the Big Ten. That would be a protected rivalry where Miami and Florida State would play every year as part of that big SEC scheduling agreement. Then you would have 2 additional out of conference games. One would be a home game against an in-state G5 or FCS. One would be an at-large matchup. This could be another G5 or an FCS school, or it can be used to protect other existing rivalries. For example, the Cy-Hawk Trophy. Iowa State would be able to be played there. Washington Wazoo would be able to be played. Oregon State would be played in those ranges. Bye weeks would take place between weeks 6 through 9. Championship week would be Championship Saturday. There would be 3 games played on Championship Saturday for each conference. At noon, you would have the number 6 versus number 3 play-in game. At 3:30, you would have the number 4 versus number 5 play-in game. And then the conference championship game would take place at 8 p.m. that night in prime time. So we would end up with 3 games on Championship Saturday. Reason why this model works so well: guaranteed rivalries year in and year out, protecting long-standing conference traditions. There will be some rivalries that no longer get played every year, but for the most part, this is the way that I've found that protected the most rivalries, while adding enough flexibility to allow you to play everybody in a set amount of time. This would also allow national marquee matchups between the SEC and the Big Ten to create playoff caliber games for fans and media partners. Every Big Ten team plays every other team at least twice every 4 years. This reduces travel by securing primarily regional rivals and rotating clusters. Potential adjustments that we can still make to this: allows some flex games to create marquee matchups more frequently. Examples: Michigan versus USC. Tier teams into 4 pods of 5. This is for organizational purposes only. These are not divisions. These are not standings. These are just clusters. The Midwest region will feature Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Indiana, Illinois. The Atlantic will feature Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, Notre Dame, and Miami. The Pacific will feature UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington, and Northwestern. And there's a reason. Plains would be Purdue, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska. The reason Northwestern would be slotted into that Pacific pod there is because Chicago. Very easy for those West Coast teams to travel in and out of Chicago to get to Northwestern. Also very easy for Northwestern to travel out. So here's an example. I went ahead and this is going to be the Michigan Wolverines. I went ahead and simulated it, kind of ran it, what it would look like over an 8-year period. As you can see, you're opening up with your in-state G5, Western Michigan. Then you've got your SEC matchup, which is Florida in this case. Then they would have Toledo at home. That would be their second at-large. Notre Dame becomes one of their permanent rivals, as does Michigan State. So you will see them play Notre Dame, Michigan State, and Ohio State every year if you're a Michigan Wolverine. So you got Notre Dame, Michigan State, at Iowa. You got your bye. You got Maryland at home, at USC, Minnesota, at Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State. That's a hell of a schedule for the Wolverines right there. Next year does not get any easier. You've got UNLV, then you're traveling to Florida. You've got Notre Dame at home. You got to go to Michigan State. You got a tough Illinois team. Wisconsin. I don't know if Wisconsin's going to be bouncing back, but got to travel to UCLA. Rutgers at home. Got to go to Nebraska, Purdue. You get Ohio State at home. Just to show you, this kind of goes through all the way through 2032. You'll see that the way we're going to do the SEC scheduling is we're going to do a home and away series. So in 2029, they get Alabama at home. 2030, they're on the road at Alabama. 2031, it's Tennessee. 2032, it's at Tennessee. This is based off of the idea that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to try and schedule as many marquee matchups as possible. You're not going to see an Ohio State scheduled for a home and an away with Vanderbilt. You're going to have those reserved for the big teams, and the Big Ten are going to play the big teams in the SEC. We're going to consider those dice rolled. Now, these are some assumptions. So let's just be straightforward and honest with you about that. This is assigning a strength score based off of pretty basic FPI logic, football power index. So a top SEC team, it's going to give you a top 5 to 15 rank. So we're going to give it a strength of schedule value of 9. Mid Big Ten team, 15 to 40, we're going to give it a strength of schedule of 7. Bottom Big Ten team, we're going to give that at about 5.5. G5 opponent, we're going to give that a 3. Top Big Ten, talking about Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, sometimes USC. Those are going to be at around 9.5. Using those assumptions, let's take a look here. One SEC at 9 points, 2 G5s at 3. Now, this would be higher for obviously like Iowa, who's playing Iowa State. It would not be a 2 3s. Iowa State would be a little heavier on there. Your 3 Big Ten rivals, you're going to assume one's an elite at 9.5. You're going to assume one's mid-tier at 7. And you're going to assume one's going to be at bottom half, 5.5. So that would put you at 21.9. And then your 6 rotating Big Tens, we just kind of cut this in thirds and thirds and thirds. 2 top half teams, 2 mid teams, 2 bottom teams. Your grand total, you've got G5 at 6 points, SEC at 9 points, your protected rivalries just shy of 22 points, and your rotating rivalries at 41 points. Now, if we divide that by the total number of games, which is 12, under the Delany Plan, which is what I'm calling it, the average strength of schedule would be 6.5 over 10, which means this model puts it above any current P5 average. That's any average in the SEC, ACC, Big 12. This would be higher than that, and I will show you the chart. This would be more challenging than the standard SEC, ACC schedules, which are averaging about 5.5 to 6 points per game. This would be on par with playoff caliber schedules. And I can show you right here. This is my Delany plan for the Big Ten. Right here you see 6.5. This is a conservative estimate, guys. I crunched these numbers quite a few times. It actually tends to be closer to 6.8, which is very impressive. The SEC's current model, it hovers around a 6 per game for SEC schools. Big 12, it's about 5.8. ACC, it's a 5.7. And then looking at historic Pac-12, this is the Pac-12 that included USC and UCLA. It's at about 5.9. So this scheduling option for a 20-team conference, and this could, like I said, this could be used. I'm using it as a Big Ten blueprint, but you could use very similar logic to the Big 12 blueprint, things of that nature to get here. But 6.5 is conservative. More often than not, like I said, it's around 6.8, which is substantially better than what any conference is doing right now. And I'd imagine the SEC is probably going to bump a little bit higher just because they've got a few more teams in the top tier there. So if the Big Ten's averaging close to 6.8, the SEC under this model, getting that Big Ten scheduling agreement, they would be closer to 7, I would imagine. I have to crunch the numbers of all the teams in there and put Florida State and the additional teams in there. So, but that's what we're looking at. That is the Delany model, as I'm calling it. It works with 20 teams. You have 3 protected rivalries, and it allows you to play everybody in a fairly regular time frame. So, again, every 4 years you're going to play everybody at least twice. So, not a bad deal. And you're going to protect rivalry games. We're going to have Michigan gets to have Ohio State, Michigan State, Notre Dame. Ohio State is probably going to have Michigan, Illinois, and Penn State. I did not actually go through here and assign yet who the 3 permanent rivals would be. That's something that we would have to do at some point. But I'm just saying roughly because I know Iowa has 3 protected rivals now. This is a way we could do this. The at-large matchup also helps ensure that we're protecting existing rivalries like the Apple Cup, the Cy-Hawk Trophy. I would also like to see the Big 12 get involved here, and possibly we could put together some similar matchups with them, like Kansas, Missouri, get that brought back on the schedule, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, see if those would be possibilities. But this works. Pickles has actually mapped it out on a matrix, and it works. I think I've tested several models over the weekend. This one seems to work best for me. So I think I can refine this a little more. I'd like to put this out there and start. I'm going to see if I can plug it in and start generating potential schedules for every single Big Ten team. We're going to have to assign some permanent rivals, but it's pretty interesting. And these teams that are in these regional pods, these are teams that are going to play each other more often than not. So, for example, you see the Midwest pod, Michigan State and Ohio State are already permanent rivals of Michigan. And then they pull Notre Dame over from the Atlantic for a rivalry as well. For Ohio State, they have Michigan and Illinois, and then they would pull Penn State over from the Atlantic as well. But lots of matchups here, but the big takeaway is this. You improve the quality of games by almost half a point. It's going to be a little bit over that. Again, like I said, it averages out to like 6.8, but yeah, it's very interesting. I'm looking forward to going through here and crunching some, assigning rivalries, and seeing how this all works out. But I did want to get this out here, get some content out for you guys, and let you take a look at it and see what you guys think. Give me some feedback, what tweaks we can make here. I'm letting Tony Petiti. You're more than welcome to use this, Tony. Just make sure that you give all credit to me and all royalties to me. All right, I'm going to pull this. Oh, I'm going to add myself backstage, remove that. All right, let's get to some questions and comments here. I'm sure you've got plenty of them. Let's say hello first. We got Bob Swanger in the house, rocking it in here. Good to see you, Bob. What do you think about Penn State being in the Atlantic pod there with your friends in Miami and Notre Dame? Tom Dubay, with these large conferences, Big Ten, SEC predominantly, that their TV partners are trying to get more marquee games out of, consider pushing for 13 FBS game schedules. You really don't need it. Again, if the Big Ten, like I said, it's closer to 6.8, the SEC is going to be closer to 7. If the Big Ten or the Big 12 is able to jump in there as well and get some of these rivalries protected, there are going to be plenty of marquee matchups just with 12 FBS games. Chef Mall 7, I have made a 20 and 24 team schedule. I have worked on a 24 team schedule. Again, I also worked on a 10 conference game schedule. This is the one I found that works the best. If you found one that works better, tag me on Twitter. Let me take a look at it. I'd love to see it. Just want to try and get this right as much as we can. Movie Time Blue says, let's make this interesting. Okay. OPD Don says, what the hell, really? Clint Moses says those are loaded dice. Let the dice be rolled. Daniel Gygax says always bet the don't pass line. I always bet hard eights. Bob Swanger, you like the Atlantic pod that Penn State is in. Okay. You're still going to have to play Ohio State every year. Sorry, that's just the way it came up. Pacific Northwestern, yeah. Again, they're so close to Chicago. It's just easy for travel wise for Northwestern to go to the West Coast. So, Shonsky's in the house. Good to see you, Shonsky. Will the Plains Division win any games? I think the whole pod ends in a tie. Well, listen, Wisconsin has potential. They've been great before. Iowa's been great before. Minnesota's had some passable teams. Nebraska's been great before. There's potential there. They're just going to have to figure it out. Illini Ted says, not a shock by any means, but this would be a huge blow to any semblance of an A4. Again, probably you're going to see the ACC is going to be severely weakened by this, but the ACC is going to be severely weakened anyway because it's going to lose at least 6 teams. So, and it's probably going to be the 6 best teams they got. So, going to be rough for them moving forward. This is, you're definitely looking more at an A3 world with this. Yes, Nebraska not in the West Coast pod, Northwestern. I put Nebraska in the West Coast pod. It just doesn't work nearly as well as just having Northwestern in. I think Northwestern's new stadium is also going to be a very hotly contested, desired thing for these West Coast teams to go in and play in. Very top of the line. You're going to want to showcase it. If you're not P2, you're G5. I'll die on that hill. I disagree with you somewhat, Clint. You absolutely can have a third autonomous conference in there, mainly the Big 12. I think that there is room where we could get that number right now. Like I said, it's at 6.5. I think we could get that number up to 7.5 on average for strength of schedule per game for the media partners by incorporating the Big 12 into some of these scheduling agreements between the Big 10 and the SEC. Skaven, yes. Hello, Buckeye Moen. Hey, Skaven, how you doing? John Graysmith says he agrees with Clint. It's Power 2 or G8 now. Morris Simmons is in the house. He says, hello, everyone. Go Noles 2027. I think they're going to the SEC, Morris. P2 is dominating. Yes. There's no way to sugarcoat that, guys. The Power 2 is going to dominate because they're going to take the best brands remaining from the ACC. And they're going to consolidate them further. So, yes, the Power 2 is going to be dominating, but does not mean that there is not opportunities and places for someone like the Big 12 to jump in there. At least the Power 2 will give us a bone to nibble on. Again, I think I would prefer that this is written in stone that we protect these rivalries. Oregon State. I know you guys aren't real big fans of each other right now, but I'd like to see that rivalry continue, whether it's called the Civil War or not. And I'd like to see the Cyhawk Trophy continue. And I'd like to see Kansas, Missouri brought back. I'd like to see Oklahoma State brought back. I want Bedlam back. I think you could get all these things and just have a really solid product for all the media partners regardless. It can be done. Will they do it? That's a question. I swear to God, the Big Ten and SEC could fuck up a wet dream. Just line the best fucking 12 in. My God, it's not brain surgery. Okay, you could do that, but you would have to change that every year. You don't know who's going to be the best 12. Bobby Madden says Big should just stick with flex protect if 20 teams with up 3 rivals protected rather than 3 guaranteed rivals. It allows teams with less rivalries to play more opponents a little more frequently. Again, you have that option. That is one of the tweaks that you could flex in to create a little bit more marquee matchup if you need a little more juice on a schedule. Conundrum says Iowa has 4 now: clones, guffers, whiskey, and corn dogs. Well, you're going to still have 4 because you're still going to have your 3 Big Ten and you're going to have your Cyclones. That mod was pretty much what Michigan was playing when Notre Dame was our first game. Yes, we're bringing that back too. Notre Dame and Michigan will take place. It's going to happen. Illinois would have Purdue and Northwestern for sure, but Ohio State makes sense for that third. Yes. Illini Ted, we are bringing back Illybuck. I don't care. That makes the most sense to me. We do not play Illinois nearly enough. So that one is coming back. We're bringing it back. Ryan Willie with a $5 super chat. Potential. I just hope Wisconsin wins more than 3 games this year so Fickle doesn't get fired. Brother, I'm pulling for you. I'm pulling for you. Again, I don't think that Fickle was the wrong hire. I just think he stepped in a big pile of shit trying to change that offense. But we'll see. Thank you for the super chat, sir. I will give you a little badger sound. Make you feel a little better. Just think if he doesn't win 3 games, you can tie him down and cover him with honey and let one of them loose on him. C. Curtis says the pods option with the 3 guaranteed rivals will provide top viewing matches for NBC and CBS as well as Fox. Absolutely correct. Again, the system is also based, Curtis, on the Big Ten, but you can also do the same thing with the SEC. I played around with it a little bit. You can do very similar. You can create similar pods, regionals. You can make sure that Georgia's playing Florida every year. Clemson and South Carolina end up playing every year. Florida State end up playing every year. You can get them all in those regional pods and do something very similar. I ended up going through about 9 models. This is the model I liked the best. Again, I still have to assign everybody their perfect amount of rivals, but I want to put this out there. I want to get your guys' feedback. If you're watching us on demand, leave it in the comment section. Let me know what you think, what we could change. Because I do want to actually game plan this out for all 20 teams over a decade and see kind of where it leaves us. And also potentially try and see if I can't simulate it out to get exactly what the win-loss records would look like coming out of that. So thank you for the super chat, Curtis. I will give you a little, let's see. Let's do a little Cheech and Chong driving. If it plays.
Hey, man. Am I driving okay?
I think we're parked, man.
Couldn't resist. We weren't here on 420, so I had to play that one. Thank you for the super chat, Curtis. Got another super chat here from our friend Stormy Cyclone. 4 months from today is Farmageddon in Ireland. Yeah. Are you going over for that game, Stormy Cyclone? That's That would be kind of a fun game to go see, just to go see a game in Ireland over there. But hey, good luck, Iowa State. And I made sure to protect that Cyhawk game in there, so that game will be played regardless. But thank you for the super chat, Stormy Cyclone. Let's have a drink. Who doggies? That whiskey hits. All right, let me get back to this. Sergeant Pickles say, I will say this again and again, but pods doesn't work. College doesn't play enough games for it to work. Again, these are not divisions. These are regional pods. And again, I would love to get any feedback on this, any tweaks we want to make. I'd love to simulate it out. I think it would be fascinating to see what the schedules end up looking like for every team, what the win-loss record looks like for every team. It could be really fascinating. Moen, you need to consider how the year-end games are set up. True. That's very true. Michigan, Ohio State, that's going to be played end of the year every year. That's the one I can guarantee you that we're going to do. You're probably going to have Nebraska, Iowa. That game's going to be towards be your end of the year game too. But that's easily worked on. We can get that worked out in there. So that stuff's all easy. That's the good news. OPD Don, $25 super chat. Thank you, Opie, for being the mini me godfather tonight. Solo, baby. Yeah, I'm flying solo tonight. But I do appreciate that you think I'm mini godfather. Because me and the fat man from Minnesota, we have one thing in common, and that is we do enjoy our food. So thank you for that, Opie. Let me give you a little let's do a little Cartman here.
I don't make the rules, ma'am. I just think them up and write them down.
Thank you so much for that super chat, Opie. It is much appreciated, sir. Mini Godfather. By the way, if he's watching, happy birthday out there to the Godfather tonight. Petiti is Sankey's hand puppet. That's what the Big Ten is doing. I think they both got their hand in each other's pockets, and they both got a smile on their face. Shonsky, I'm sorry. I am sorry. We got another super chat here from C. Curtis. Hey, Climax Moonshine. Tim Smith and Culpeper, Virginia. Try an awesome 3-grain blend. So damn smooth. I have to check with my liquor store and see if I can get it. Usually stuff like that I have to order in. But seeing as Canadian whiskey's skyrocketing in price, I already bought a case of Crown Royal. So I'm going to have to pull through that first. But the next time I stop at the liquor store, I will ask them, Curtis. I will see what the Hey Climax Moonshine from Tim Smith in Culpeper, Virginia. I do enjoy my whiskeys, Canadian or American. Appreciate that super chat, sir. Let me see. Give you a little Randy.
Arresting me for what? I'm not allowed to stand up for myself? I thought this was America. Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
Thought it was America. Speaking of America, we got Mr. America joining us here tonight. All the way from the East Bay via the mountains of West Virginia. It's Daniel Gygax.
Yo,
How's it going, Daniel?
not bad. No news at all today coming out of the East Bay too.
Yeah, I know. It's like the judge told him that she wanted him to do something, and they said no.
She told him, what was it, like day one, saying, I don't like this. And they just kept pushing her off, and it's not looking good.
Thank you for that super chat, Curtis. Let's get back to some more comments here. What did you think of the scheduling arrangement that I put together there, Daniel?
With the 3 protected rivals, and then you play the other 6.
Yes.
That works. That works really good. The one that I've seen the most is the 5-team or 5-school pod, and then then you'll play the other pod. That would be your 9 games, and then the other pod the next year, the other pod. But it takes 6 years to rotate through home and home for everything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. This one, the one you have, it's going to be every 4 years for home and home.
Yeah, this is, like I said, if you come up with any ideas or you think there's any tweaks that we could make there, I would love to do it. I plan on, I'm probably going to have to sit down and program it out, but running an entire simulation for a decade on this, I'd like to see a 10-year tour, as it were.
And we're still counting that Notre Dame finally bends the knee. And
yes.
What happens with?
I'd like to run
UNC.
one with the SEC as well, with Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and Virginia.
That's if they can get past the Wolf Pack backpack.
Right. If they can pay them off.
They probably could.
Ryan Willie says on Wisconsin. Absolutely. I'm pulling for Wisconsin. I'm picking Fickle. Pick Fick.
They just need to,
Sergeant
run the ball.
Well, yeah. He stepped in shit in that one.
Yeah.
Sergeant Pickles, as you would imagine, I have multiple 24-team schedules that can work, but you don't play teams often. Yeah, see, that's the problem. It's trying to make sure you play your protected rivalries, you protect your rivals, you give your media partners the best available games, and then you try and play people in your conference as often as possible.
Because I don't know what Ohio State Northwestern gets for a number, but I can guarantee you Michigan, Ohio State gets, what was it, like 11 million last year, something like that, 11, 12 million. Can't remember.
Yeah, it's usually one of the top 3 games of the season. So
easily.
Stormy Cyclone just got here, Moen flying solo. Not anymore, just facts with Dan Gygax has arrived. Good work, Moen. Pods work great. The schedule will provide networks with all they want, especially CBS and NBC as well as Fox.
And they want to be happy.
In addition to that, Curtis, it actually opens up the door for a 4th media partner. You can get a 4th media partner to do a mid-tier game on at some point during the week. That could be an Amazon. That could be something you license to Peacock again. But yeah, the additional inventory also adds an additional game that you could sell to a 4th media partner if you wanted to. Scheduling an over 20-team conference is impossible. It's not impossible, Shonsky, but it sucks. I'm just letting you know. There is no... It's... As soon as you open one door, you close 2 windows, and it's impossible. You're constantly trying to catch yourself.
It gets ugly quick.
It gets ugly quick. You have to lose rivals. As it is now with 3 protected rivals, for a lot of these schools, you're actually struggling to find who the rivals are. For example, Penn State currently has no rivals in the Big Ten. They haven't. So we would have to give them Ohio State as a rivalry.
I thought they had a trophy game versus Michigan State.
They have a trophy game versus Michigan State, but it's not really a rivalry. The land grant trophy, it's not really
That's
a
it.
rivalry. So Penn State, you would probably have to give them. Ohio State, I think you could give them Miami as well because they've got some history there.
A lot.
A lot of history there from the 1980s and onwards. So, and then you're gonna have to find that third rival for Penn State. I don't know who that is yet. Might be Michigan State, might be Rutgers. I don't know. What up, Moen? Watching NBA tonight. Go Cavaliers. Let's think way outside the box. Instead of thinking pods within conferences, what about getting 48 teams and dividing them into 8 pods based on geography, not current conference alignment? You have to sacrifice autonomy. I don't think you're going to find any Big Ten or any SEC team looking to sacrifice that autonomy.
Especially whenever you're also, the other thing is it will rip up the TV contracts. So,
right.
Yeah, not going to happen.
But one thing I would like to see with the Big Ten SEC scheduling agreement is I'd like to see a return to some of these old rivalries. I'd like to see Oklahoma, Nebraska, if the Big Ten and the SEC have a scheduling agreement, I'd like to see that become an every year game.
Should.
It makes sense.
Well, when's college athletics make sense anymore?
In the end, I think ACC loses 8, and much like Power 12 or Pac-12 becomes essentially a super AAC. Yeah, they're going to lose a lot of people. They're going to lose their top brands. Louisville, Virginia Tech, North Carolina State's probably gone, and Pitt's probably gone. So,
yeah, it's just a question of who makes the first move.
Almighty Finn says the ACC should grab Wazoo and Oregon State.
It just depends on what happens with Carolina, Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, all those other schools that are there. Once people start running for the door, who knows what's going to happen with Wazoo and Washington State.
Morris Simmons says that's the wrong answer, Mo, and I assume he's talking about me saying Florida State going to the SEC. But Almighty Finn is saying it's the right answer, Mo. And Almighty Finn and I are going to go. I got to meet him up in Indianapolis and smoke a bone with him. So
cool.
We're going to do Almighty Finn right answer.
I don't think anybody knows until Florida State makes an announcement saying, hey, we're going to blank.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who jumps first.
Yeah.
Coy, R.I.P. Mongo McMichael. Yeah, Steve McMichael passed away, suffered from ALS for a long time. Glad he found some peace finally, but forever the worst. Oh, no, I take it back. Paul Roma was the worst horseman, but Mongo McMichael wasn't a very good horseman either. Is the Cyhawk Trophy Iowa State? It is. And that would be protected. Iowa would have to continue to play Iowa State. Likewise with Oregon Ducks would have to continue to play the Oregon State Beavers. Washington Huskies would have to play the Washington State Cougars.
Yep. And I want to say Louisville, Kentucky is protected too.
Yeah, that's again, I want to do as much. The thing I like about the way this format works is it protects as many rivalries as possible. It protects traditions, protects rivalries, produces great games. You can go back and we can look at that Michigan schedule. There's 1 year Michigan's going to be lucky to get through that year 6-6. It's a hellacious schedule. I'm really interested to see how these simulate out.
It's going to be, yeah. Michigan, what was it? They went 6-6 last year.
I believe, I don't know. They beat Ohio State. Who cares? That's all that matters. That's the only game that matters to me.
They had the guy holding the sign up there at WrestleMania, the number of days.
I said, you know what? It's our fault. Our fault. Don't want that sign up there. Don't lose that game. James Davis says the SEC could be pods. You're absolutely right. I kind of played around with it a little bit. I didn't do anything formal for them yet. But you're right. Those could be pods. You could do the exact same thing with the SEC. You can do the exact same thing with the Big 12.
Yeah.
It works for the Big 12 also. Especially with, the Colorado, the Arizona schools, Utah,
Yep.
BYU, all in that kind of pod right there. It works.
That would be 5 schools right there that would automatically fit together.
So we are talking 2030 for the 320 team conferences, since that would be when the new media contracts start and the ACC exit fee goes to $75 million.
Maybe.
I think it's going to happen before 2030. I think you're probably talking 2027.
It depends on what Florida State does. It depends on what UNC does. They want to leave. UNC's just stuck with the Wolfpack backpack. FSU, I'm not sure what's going on at FSU, and I don't think anybody else does, but they might be passing the hat around, trying to find money.
Movie Time Blues, I'm for bringing the Big 12 in. They can provide better opponents than G programs some years. I agree.
Yep.
They also, if they can get that deal worked out with Turner Broadcasting, that could branch out into another media partner. Conundrum says dissolve the ACC and let's get this party started. Somebody's got to jump first.
Yeah.
Shonsky says Fickle's trying to run the wrong offense at Wisconsin. Wisconsin needs to get back to their roots with the big bruising backs. I agree 100%.
Yep.
Ron Dane all day down your throat. That's Fickle came in there. He thought he was going to kind of put an Ohio State style offense in there, and it backfired. And now he's having to go back. And God bless him. I hope he can do it.
Oh, I have a correction. Michigan went 8-5 last year. I saw it in the chat. Yeah, I thought it was 6-6, and I don't know why I thought 6-6 for some reason.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what their record was; they beat Ohio State.
Yeah, I know.
South Carolina, Clemson, Florida State, Florida, UGA, Auburn, Alabama, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mizzou. Hey, I like it, James.
That works. Works for me.
That works for me too. I think that's a great pod. Well, if you go to Ireland, let me know. If you want to know what to drink there, just get a pint of Guinness. I've never been to Ireland myself. I've been to England, but I've never been to Ireland.
I've flown through there, but never the 4 hours I was on the ground. Just didn't do much.
Hey, Moen, who would you say Nebraska's rivals are besides idiots out wondering about? Oklahoma.
Iowa.
Well, that's what idiots out wondering about are.
Yeah. Minnesota a little bit, but not much. Yeah, their biggest rival was Colorado and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And
I would
games
definitely like to see that, if it's possible at all, to get them to come back into that and do Oklahoma, Nebraska every year. But other than that, yeah, you're going to have Iowa. You're probably going to have Minnesota. And you're probably going to end up with someone like Illinois.
Yes. Somewhat.
Or Wisconsin. You could end up with Wisconsin too.
True, yes.
It's tough. We will have to sit down and figure this one out. I mean, if you've got some suggestions for me, Skaven, we'll put them in there. We'll try and run that simulation. I've got all the code in a spreadsheet. So Ohio State and Notre Dame isn't a rivalry. You're right. They would not be protected rivals, but Notre Dame would be a protected rivalry of Michigan.
Yes.
This next super chat. From C. Curtis, the Bigs should be first and just offer UNC, Florida State, Miami, and call Notre Dame. The thing is, Curtis, they know how much Notre Dame brings with them.
Yes.
As far as North Carolina, they would love to have North Carolina. They'd love to have Virginia. I don't think that North Carolina wants to come to the Big Ten.
I think North Carolina wants the biggest check that they can get.
That's true to some extent, but
yeah,
I think
SEC will offer full value from day one.
That's true. They will be pro rata day one. They can do that. They have that money already. In order for the Big Ten to offer something like that, they'd have to have Notre Dame join.
Yes.
Notre Dame is the only guaranteed money for them. So anything else would have to be negotiated with media partners. And media partners probably aren't ready right now to give them more money. So,
well, it just, like I said, if Notre Dame comes in and then brings Miami, then that check's going to get cut easy.
Yes, everybody would become full members of the Big Ten at that point. Oregon and Washington would become full members.
Isn't Rutgers and Maryland still getting a discounted rate?
I believe they still have some money they have to pay back.
Okay.
But I believe they're full members fully invested in the network now.
Okay.
I will say this, Curtis. I think UNC leaving is going to be the thing that crushes the ACC. I know people look at it and go, okay, UNC leaves, it's one school, it's no big deal. That's a dagger in the heart to the ACC. That is the ACC school.
Yes.
North Carolina. And when North Carolina leaves and says, we don't want to be a part of this anymore, that's going to crush the ACC.
Yeah.
Let me give you a super chat. Makes you feel good.
Yeah, dude, you gotta try it. It makes you feel good.
Friend Ryan Willie, can Day keep losing to the team up north if he keeps winning natties? Yeah, he probably could. Yeah. He probably could. But I think hopefully now that he's won a natty, he got all that out of his system and he figures this out. Because if he doesn't, I'm a bad man.
I'm a bad man. You hear me?
I've already apologized to him once. And if he wins another national championship, I'll probably apologize to him again.
I just want to know what he puts in his beard.
Not dyed. It is not dyed.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. Not dyed. Might be powdered, but not dyed.
That's true. Yeah.
Thank you for the super chat, Ryan. It's much appreciated, sir. Yeah, back up here to some more comments and questions. If you guys got any tweaks, go ahead and throw them in the chat here. I would love to hear them. Any feedback, again, if you're watching us on demand, drop that in the comment section. I want to hear from you guys. I want to do this. We're going to put together a gigantic simulation. We're going to simulate this out, see how it works. Any tweaks would be perfect. The only reason you're doing the scheduling agreement is because out-of-conference games won't matter.
They still do.
They still will. Yeah, they still will. It should be USC and UCLA, and Notre Dame, Michigan State is your end games.
The USC UCLA, yes.
I
Notre
would
Dame,
probably do
Purdue?
Notre Dame, Purdue over
Yeah.
Michigan State. If you're giving Notre Dame permanent rivals, you're probably giving them Michigan, you're giving them Miami, and you would probably give them Purdue is going to be
Yes.
their third protected rival. And I know it's not a sexy game. It's Purdue, but they have a lot more history with Purdue than they do Michigan State. If I happen to make it to Ireland, what whiskey or Irish blend do you recommend? I generally don't drink Irish whiskey. I'm generally not a fan of it, but if I was going to Ireland, I'd have to have a pint of Guinness. Conundrum's right. There's only one whiskey, and it's made in Scotland.
Oh, yeah.
I've been to Scotland before, too, and I couldn't understand a goddamn word anybody said. I just smiled and nodded.
We were, there's a RAF base called Mildenhall, and we would go in and out of it on occasion. And it's right there in the Midlands. And there's this one guy, super thick accent. We were asking how to, like, directions to a bar. And we had no idea what he was saying. It was really thick on that accent.
I just said, all right, and gave him a high five. OPD Don says, I believe the Virginia Tech will be the hardest, if not impossible, to separate.
Probably.
But I think, again, if they can get the Big 12 as part of this and guarantee some of these rivalry games will continue, for example, a Virginia Tech game, I think that would go a long way.
Also, probably UVA would have to cut a check. Same thing like UCLA with Berkeley.
Has been. There is no reason for the Power 2 to help the Big 12. Benign neglect leaves the Big 12 as a weak contender for CFP and media dollars.
They've been proactive. They picked up those 4 schools out of the Pac-12 fairly easily. They could have just said, no, we're not going to pick you guys up. So they were proactive on that end.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. You've seen it from the judge just today.
Yes.
You almost want to do it as a, look, we're going to help the little guy. We're not hurting the little guy. We're helping the little guy. You're throwing... And we can be honest here that it is throwing them table scraps. It's throwing them table scraps. It is, but it looks good. It makes you look good. So,
I mean, the Big 12 is not going to be anything more than number 3. I mean, no way that they're going to compete with the SEC. No way they're going to compete with the Big 10. What they have to do is just be the best number 3 out there. I mean, that's it.
And, you know, again, with NIL money essentially being unlimited at this point, there's nothing that's preventing Colorado is a great example. What Deion's built there at Colorado, you could obviously just jump right in there and potentially have a national championship candidate.
Yes.
It's entirely possible for the Big 12 to have a national championship candidate. They've just got to invest in it. So,
I mean, you got to think of it this way. When you're a conference, you're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, then once you're in the playoffs, I mean, just got to win games from then on.
That's right. We are joined by Wild Ute, rocking his sunglasses. He's got the Wayfarers on. What's happening, Ute?
The Big 12 can absolutely win a national championship.
Yes.
Don't sleep on the Big 12, Moen. Don't you do that.
And that national championship will be WVU.
It's going to be WVU. It's going to be Utah. 1 and 2 right there. How you doing,
okay.
guys?
We'll run the simulation and see what happens. What did you think of the scheduling so far?
I have not seen it, Moen. I'll be honest with you. Why don't you do a quick runsy over it? Can you? Like a 1 minute recap?
Here's Tony Petiti and Greg Sankey. They're playing some dice in Vegas.
Man, Petiti, look at this guy.
He's happy. Look at that.
Man,
They're playing that hard 8. So basically, it's a 9-conference game schedule. Everybody has 3 protected rivals. You've got 1 primary rival. That's going to be your end-of-year rival. And then you've got 2 secondary historic or regional rivals. In our example, we're using the University of Michigan Wolverines. So their primary rival is Ohio State. Their secondary rivals would be Michigan State and Notre Dame. In this scenario, Notre Dame has joined the Big Ten along with Miami. Then your 6 other conference games would be rotational games out of the 16 teams. Each team will play every other conference opponent at least twice every 4 years, home and away every 8 years. You have 3 out-of-conference games. One of them would be that Big Ten SEC out-of-conference game. As much as possible, we want marquee matchups there. In addition, we would like to protect some historic rivalries. So in this scenario, assuming Florida State goes to the SEC and Miami goes to the Big Ten, Florida State, Miami would be locked in every year as a rivalry game. Oklahoma, Nebraska would be another one that we would probably lock in there every single year. You would have 2 additional out-of-conference games. One, I'm suggesting to be an in-state G5 or an FCS school. Help out some of the smaller schools in your state. The other one would be at large. That could be a G5 or a Big 12 team. In instances where there are existing rivalries, we want to protect them. So, for example, the Cy-Hawk Trophy, Iowa State, that would be protected. Washington Wazoo would be protected. Oregon State would be protected. As much as possible, protecting those rivalries. Bye week would be somewhere between weeks 6 through 9. Championship Saturdays would feature 3 games. At noon, you would have the number 6 versus number 3 play-in game. At 3:30, you would have the number 4 versus number 5 play-in game. And that at 8, you would have the championship game, your 1 versus 2. This guarantees rivalries year in, year out, protects conference traditions, national marquee matchups. Here's some pods and all this stuff. Here's what you're going to want to really take a look at.
Yeah, let's go back to that. What is the schedule here? Is that
Well,
Ohio State?
This is Michigan's schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So this is assuming Michigan, 2025, Western Michigan, Florida, Toledo are their out-of-conference games. Then they would have at Notre Dame. That would be one of their protected rivalries. Michigan State at home would be their other protected rivalry. Then they'd go to Iowa, Maryland at home, go to USC, Minnesota at home, go to Penn State, Oregon at home, then Ohio State on the road. This would be a monster schedule. I mean, look, Florida, Notre Dame, Iowa, Michigan State's always a tough game. USC, Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State. That's a brutal. That would be a brutal year for them. But what I was going to show you is I did assumptions for a strength of schedule estimation using Football Power Index.
Mm-hmm.
So strength of schedule value, 9 for the SEC teams, assuming you're getting a top SEC team, 7 for your mid Big Ten teams, 5.5 for your bottom Big Ten teams, 3 for your G5 opponents, 9.5 for your top Big Ten programs. And then putting those all together, you end up with 6.5.
I love it.
6.5. It's above any current P5 average, more challenging than standard SEC ACC schedules, which are averaging about 5.5 to 6, on par with playoff caliber schedules. and you can actually see the bar graph here. This is my Big Ten plan, the Delany Plan. The SEC is currently at 6. The Big 12 is currently at 5.8. The ACC is currently at 5.7. The Pac-12 historic was around 5.9. The average is 6.5. More often than not for the big teams, this number came out closer to 6.8.
So this is actually pointing to harder opponents, right? Harder strength of schedule.
Strength of schedule will go up because the amount of quality games would go up.
Yep.
So everybody's schedule would be harder as a result of this, more or less. Now, the SEC number would probably eclipse that Big Ten number, especially when you add Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, Virginia, get everybody in there. That number would probably be closer to 7.1. I still have to do the math on that, though. I haven't done any strength of schedule assumptions for the SEC yet.
I mean, here's the deal. This sounds fantastic if you're a Big Ten person or an SEC person. As a Big 12 person, it's like cutting my balls off, Moen, right here. Because you're basically saying Big 12 does not have a life. They're not relevant. We're not going to play them. And so the Big Ten and the SEC, this is a nice little fest right here, love fest and everything. I get it. It's great for viewership and stuff, but it absolutely cuts the balls off the Big 12 and the ACC doing it.
Again, I would go back to, I think that they're not going to kick sand in the little guy's face. I don't think they want to have any legal troubles with the government. I don't think they're going to cut the balls off the Big 12. I think that they can bring the Big 12 in on this. Example, the Cy-Hawk Trophy would continue to be played. Try and get Oklahoma State, get Bedlam back on the schedule. Try and get Kansas, Missouri back on the schedule. Possibly get Nebraska, Colorado back on the schedule. I mean, there's ways you can bring the Big 12 along in this. Are they going to be up there on the same level as the SEC and Big Ten? They're not, but there's nothing they can do about that. The brands will be consolidated into those two power conferences.
Well, yeah, then why don't you just go to a Super League then? If you're going to do something like this, like have a real Super League.
Because you would surrender autonomy in a Super League.
How?
And Sankey's already said no.
Yeah,
Sankey is irrelevant. He's not going to be a guy making the decisions. Alabama's saying go kick rock, Sankey. Sankey's, of course, he's going to be for it because he's the commissioner of the SEC. He's the last guy in the world that wants to support a Super League because he's out of a job. So
but don't you think that all the presidents and ADs said, no, we're not going to do this? Because you got to think of it this way. It will start diluting their money. And that's what the SEC is looking at. If the SEC has to start splitting money with the Big 12, not going to happen.
I'm just talking about just go to the real Super League of 24, 30 teams. That's basically what this is with a couple milk suckers. Just do it. Just do it. I don't know. I can just seeing this kind of stuff. I get it. If I'm in the Big Ten, I'm like, heck yeah, man, this is great. But as a Big 12 person, this absolutely blows.
Well, again, yeah. I mean,
what is this good for Utah? They're not going to play anybody. They don't have a rival.
Oh, they'll get to play BYU.
They'll get to lose to WVU.
We'll let them keep BYU. No, but I mean, look, I see what you're saying, but there's really nothing you can do anyway. It's the rich are going to get richer. There's no stopping that.
You're forgetting the golden rule.
Yeah, he who has the gold makes the rules.
Exactly.
But the other part you got to remember, these teams and these conferences don't want to be part of a Super League. Ohio State does not want to be part of a Super League. They want to be a part of the Big Ten Conference.
Mm-hmm. How much money do you think you would have to cut in a check to Tuscaloosa, to Gainesville, to, let's say, even Baton Rouge, to get them to even think about a Super League?
Yeah, that's a fantastic.
I don't think it's going to happen because right now they're going to get close to $100 million a year by the time the contract cycles through.
Mhm.
It's not, I mean, you would have to probably double that number and then a lot of guarantees that number stays for 20 years.
Yeah, I agree with you. You'd have to double it. It'd have to be 200 million. You'd have to figure out how to get the financial backing to pay 200 million.
But can you sustain that? That's the big question.
I mean, like, I think so, because college football's undervalued, and you'd have the best brands. I think you'd get massive TV contracts with many partners, and I think you could make that work. But can you sell Ohio State on it? Can you sell Alabama on it for 200 million? If you can get Ohio State on board, then the cookie crumbles, right? Like Ohio State and Bama, they control it. And Michigan, like these big brands, they control these conferences. They're as good as the backbone of them, which is Ohio State and Michigan. And so just sweeten the pot.
But they're not leaving. There's no way. And then on top of that, let's say that Michigan says, okay, we're going to join the Super League. They have a little issue. It's called the Spartans. And guaranteed that's going to get tied up in the legislature where they say, oh, hey, Michigan, adios. It's not going to happen. The Michigan State University would absolutely do everything they can to keep the Wolverines in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and I've heard the same thing in Washington State, in Washington, in Oklahoma, with Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. And everybody says that. Cal Berkeley and UCLA, everybody says that, and it never sticks. Unless you're back in the day with Virginia and Virginia Tech, but they will not be able to leverage that anymore. That's just not a viable option. There's going to be lawsuits no matter what.
Yeah.
Like,
how much money a year is UCLA cutting in a check to Berkeley?
10 million, right? 10 million.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's like 10 point something. I can't remember. But yeah, $10 million a year. So, like I said, could UNC do that? Cut that type of check? Could UVA cut that check to VPI? Of course.
What do you think about this, Moen?
I tend to agree with Daniel that I understand it didn't work out between Washington and Washington State, but Michigan State's a little bit different than Washington State. It's a much bigger institution, much more ingrained and into the legislator of the state of Michigan. Virginia Tech, that's the one that gives me, as most I can figure is Virginia Tech gets guaranteed access to the Big 12 and a nice payday from Virginia every single season.
Yeah, that's exactly what it had to look like.
They'll sit there and just photocopy the UCLA Berkeley contract and just swipe the name out for UVA and VPI.
And I think the same thing happens with North Carolina and North Carolina State. I think North Carolina State gets access to the Big 12, and North Carolina cuts a check that makes them healthier at the end of the season.
So I guess going back to the plan, I feel like it needs a little revision to give a little bit more love to the Big 12.
Again, well, for starters, we have to decide who the three rivals are for each team. I think that would clear some of that up because obviously for, Iowa, you're going to have that Iowa State game factored in there.
Sure.
Possibly factoring in a Nebraska-Colorado game. But overall, schedules are going to get a lot harder, regardless of where you're at. If you're in the Big 10, the Big 12, or the SEC, your schedule is going to get harder under this scheduling agreement.
Yeah, and the losses are going to be more acceptable too, right? More playoff spots. You can take a loss and it's not going to tank your season. You can lose up to 3 games and it probably won't take your season. So there is mitigation for the harder schedule that will be compensation right there.
In addition to that,
it depends on who you lose to.
Well, in addition to that, you're going to see an expanded playoff with this format. It's not going to be a 12-team playoff. It's probably going to be a 16-team playoff. It might get up to a 20-team playoff.
I don't see 20. That's well. Then again, FCS does 24.
Yeah, but I mean, the conference champions are going to want something as a result of being a conference champion. So,
yeah,
you might end up with a bye and a 20-team playoff. You're going to have to do something to make those conference champions happy. But yeah, you're going to see a lot more teams in the playoffs. You're going to see a lot more competitive games. I think as a fan, it means good news for fans. You're going to get a lot better games. Ryan Willie with a $5 super chat. You're talking $5 to $6 billion a year for 24 to 30 teams. What about the rest of the college football?
We doing the math? Have you done the math on that, Ryan? I haven't broken it out. So, I think the rest of college football is going to take a step back. So you've got 30 teams, probably 32 teams in a super league, and the rest is going to be completely screwed. Not
that
going
would
to have
be 200
the
million.
exposure money. That'd be 200 million per team. Yeah.
Yes.
30. So what are we talking about right now? I think that we could throw out these big numbers, but how much is being paid out today? Like the Big Ten's contract, isn't it like what? It's definitely over $1 billion a year. Is it like $1.5 billion, $1.6 billion? The SEC's, if you
Something
factor
like that
into, we're probably at $3.5 billion today. With those two conferences alone, you factor in Big 12 and ACC, you're probably at $4 billion. So yeah, there's going to be a little bit of an amplifier, the 5 or 6. There's going to be a little bit more you can get out of it. It's not unreasonable. It actually makes sense, I think, to get that type of money and stuff. But can you get Ohio State to bite for $200 million? And like Daniel said, no. I agree with him. It's going to be hard.
Ohio State could go demand $200 million from the Big Ten right now, and the Big Ten would pay it.
I don't think so.
They would. Teams would pay it, but the Big Ten, Ohio State would never ask that of its Big Ten sister schools. It would never do that.
Because the second that Ohio State asks for that, the team up north will ask for the same. If not,
they can, but Ohio State's been bringing more money into the conference over the last 25 years than Michigan. So,
how much could Ohio State be getting paid in the Big Ten? Like, if we're going to factor it in based on your brand initiative share, I haven't broken this out, but I'm going to. Like, how much should Ohio State actually be getting paid?
Ohio State could probably get double what they're making now.
So Ohio State should be at least baseline at $200 million, right?
Again, Ohio State would never ask that of its fellow universities in the Big Ten, though. They would never ask that. But the question is, could they ask that, and would they be able to get paid that? I think the answer would be yes. I think you would have schools like Purdue and Michigan State and, the smaller schools saying, hey, hell yeah, you're getting us this fantastic media deal with the ratings that you bring into the conference. Absolutely, take a little more. But they'll never do that. And I agree with them for that. I don't like the idea of unequal revenue sharing. I think everybody should get paid the same amount of money. It's a conference. We did not get here based off of one team. It's through the contributions of every single member, and we should make the same amount of money. But Ohio State could go in and ask for more, and they could probably get it.
Do you think that's going to continue into the future? With more revenue sharing pressure, with more NIL resource pressure, do you think that Ohio State is going to continue supporting the rest of the Big Ten with its generosity?
I think so. Again, everybody in the Big Ten plays a part. So, I mean, like we can talk Wisconsin. People say, well, Wisconsin hasn't done very well football-wise in the last 15 years. Wisconsin is a major academic powerhouse in the Big Ten. So I believe all boats rise with the tide. And I think, I don't think the only thing that I could see disrupting that is if Notre Dame came in and wanted some form of special treatment. I think there could be pushback from Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State in that scenario. Otherwise, I don't see the Big Ten, it's about unity. We love our fellow Big Ten schools. Even though I don't like Michigan, it's still a Big Ten school, you know.
Brothers, right?
Brothers. Tom Dubay has one for you. What would you do as a solution for the Big 12?
If the scheduling happens, yeah, I think that's the context of this. Oh man, I think the Big 12 is in a serious pickle. If you can't get enough primetime games versus the SEC and the Big 10, it puts you a step back, and you're already a couple steps back, and that's why it's rough. Even like having this conversation from the Big 12 standpoint, like it feels like you're falling further behind. So you try to partner with the ACC, you try to get the best premier matchups you can with the ACC because they're in the exact same boat. And you play at different times on different days to get max exposure. But it's a total L for the Big 12.
Wait, I'm going to rewind back on that. Thursday nights now, the NFL has that. It used to be the Big East owned that Thursday night game. Friday, you now have the Big Ten showing games on Fox. Saturday, the whole slate's full. Monday night is football, and we could see from the Sunbelt MAC numbers that Tuesday, Wednesday games don't really get that high a viewership. So, I mean, are you going to end up proposing that the Big 12 plays on Tuesday, Wednesdays now?
I think that you should consider playing on Fridays a lot. I think Fridays, like having 2 games per every Friday, maybe having a game after the NFL game on Thursday. Like you just need exposure. Like we're talking about the exposure battle. If this happens and we have more conference games and a blended conference matchup for SEC and Big Ten, there's just less windows and premier time spots for Big 12 to get in. So you can do TNT, right? Like, and have that as your premier partner, get a lot of games on, but you need exposure and you need eyeballs for relevance.
The Big 12 does have a Friday night ESPN game. I know because I'm going to be in Provo for one of them.
Whoop, whoop.
Watch WVU beat BYU by 2 touchdowns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think the main thing for the Big 12 is getting to the next media deal, getting away from ESPN, getting away from Fox, getting on to Warner Brothers Discovery, getting your own Big 12 network. And then you don't have to worry about, you can have a Friday game. You can counter program the Big 10's Friday game.
Fox has been pretty nice to the Big 12 for having that primetime game. WVU was on it 3 times last year on Fox. I mean, they've been really nice having that network game with the Big 12.
Yeah, I think the Big 12 is doing everything it can do. Like just looking at the question again, Tom's question, and like Yormark's positioning, putting rivalry games at like unique times in the year, like the Holy War, for example. It's in the middle of the season. So we're doing everything we can. It's there's just not a lot of great options really because you're in a pickle. Like it helps if the ACC implodes. So you can take over the 3rd significant conference spot, grab 4 ACC schools and get to 20 teams. Then you've taken a competitor out. Then all of a sudden, maybe you're just positioning for that 3rd spot, 3rd exposure versus fighting the ACC for it. So the best thing for the Big 12, been saying this for a long time, is when the ACC implodes, picking the ACC, the bones of the ACC, what you want, what's left over, and then just fighting to be the 3rd best conference.
Yeah. But even then, you're still looking probably half the revenue what the Big 10 and SEC make. It's just how the world works. I mean, put random Alabama game up against, let's say, WVU Utah on Fox. You've got Alabama playing. I'm going to sit there and say South Carolina. Guess which one's going to get the big number?
Right.
Yeah.
We know that one.
Yeah.
Ryan Willie says university presidents don't give a shit about sports, and he's absolutely right. They care about academics.
Mhm.
They sure do.
Wisconsin especially. Wisconsin and Michigan, they pushed hard to get Washington into the conference. They pushed Ohio State to take Oregon, even though they didn't want to. And now Ohio State gets their say. Football in the Big Ten is the front porch versus the research dollars involved.
Yeah,
Again, you're going to have to make the presidents happy, the media partners happy. Everybody's got to be happy in this thing. So, but again, it all comes down to what North Carolina does. If North Carolina bolts to the SEC, then I think it's Notre Dame and Miami to the Big Ten.
Yes.
Yeah, Notre Dame to Miami to the Big Ten looks like it's like the chalk at the moment, right?
It makes
Seems
the
like
most sense. You get into Florida, but you don't really get into the South. You're in South Beach, which is considered more north than south. For all that makes sense. And you get Notre Dame, which Notre Dame brings the money. You got your guaranteed money with Notre Dame. Everybody goes full member at that point.
Got big
Miami,
airport.
yeah, Miami. You got the Miami International Airport right there. It's a little easier to travel to than Tallahassee. And honestly, it's because Notre Dame probably wants Miami over Florida State. Notre Dame's going to get to make that call.
Yeah. The problem is Miami, distance-wise, is so far away from the rest of the Big Ten Conference. That is a serious issue. We're talking about it with the old Pac-12 ads. Miami would be on its own island in Miami, Florida, South Florida, far away from anywhere else. Every single game is a long-distance travel. That dog don't hunt right there. They cannot
How
be
far
solo,
is it
guys.
from
That
Seattle?
dog don't hunt.
Yeah.
It will not work, I promise you.
How far is it from Seattle to Rutgers? How far is it from UCLA, Los Angeles, let's say State College, PA, or
Sure.
Maryland, or any of these other ones? And USC and UCLA were the first ones to jump up and say, hey, we'll take those flights. And yes, nice part is there's a big airport there in Los Angeles, but you're flying into State College, PA, and that's not a big airport.
But Miami's flying into Seattle, and Miami doesn't have anybody else in the region, whereas UCLA and USC are in the same city, and
Are
they've
you
got
gonna-
Oregon and Washington on the West Coast.
Why would Miami turn down that money
They would not.
to say, no, we're going to take our chance with the SEC? And the SEC doesn't need Miami. They're in Miami.
Yeah, they wouldn't turn it down, but it would become an issue over time.
I
It'd become a
think
massive issue over time.
I think it's the new world that we're looking at. That the SEC, to their credit, if they grab North Carolina, Virginia, Florida State, Clemson, they will stay a regional conference. The Big Ten is going to be the travel conference, and if you're going to be a part of the Big Ten, you're going to travel, and it's going to suck at some points. It is. It's not going to be fun to fly from Piscataway to Los Angeles, but that's why you're getting cut those big checks too. So I think, yeah, I think that they're getting, I think Miami will go into it fully understanding that they're going to be on an island. But I think where you see that as a negative, Miami might also see that as more of a positive.
WVU was on an island for 11 years. And the airport in Morgantown is a joke. The football charter was 40 miles away in Clarksburg, West Virginia. But if they needed to, let's say the gymnastics team had to fly out to TCU, they had to drive up to Pittsburgh. And that's about an hour and 15-minute drive. So, I mean, they did it because they needed that Big 12 lifeline. Big East fell apart, ACC wasn't returning phone calls.
Yeah, I got to keep in mind Oregon's in the Big Ten now. They built themselves on traveling to ungodly places to play games. They would travel to Piscataway, New Jersey to play a game to get the exposure. So I think Miami's going to go into it fully understanding that there are going to be a lot of travel involved. But that's the wages of the world. So Florida State will be playing Florida, Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. That will be a hard no. Depends on how you guys work the schedule out. I haven't crunched the numbers for the SEC yet, Morris. Once I get everything copacetic and exactly how I want it, I'm going to run a simulation on the Big Ten, and then I would be happy to run one on the SEC as well as the Big 12. Sergeant Pickles reminded us that Big added the Alabama of rowing.
Is that Oregon?
No.
Who is that?
No, that's Washington.
Washington is the
Michigan's combination of academics and athletics is top in the Big Ten and one of the tops in the NCAA.
Yeah.
Great academics at Michigan. Not saying they're not. Tony Lawson, I like Big Friday night. It's good for the smaller big schools to get games on Fox national broadcast. You can have them all you want. Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan do not want to play Friday nights.
I thought that was part of the deal that they had to do at least one game a year.
Ohio State has played a Friday night game, but we generally don't like to do that because of high school football.
Yeah.
It hurts recruiting. Morris Simmons says we are going to the Power 2. The question is which conference? Absolutely. Florida State will not get left behind. They are far too valuable. I put up a post on Twitter. They're number 2 in terms of value behind only Notre Dame. I think the Big 12 has to line up as many out-of-conference rivalry games as possible. BYU, Notre Dame, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma State, etc. Again, I think if you want to avoid antitrust, you want to avoid being Goliaths kicking sand in the face of David, I think it behooves the Big Ten and the SEC to schedule those games with the Big 12. Presidents wanted UW, Network wanted Oregon. They're on the verge of pulling a Nebraska and losing AAU. Honestly, I don't know how they.
Oregon is?
Yeah. I don't even know how they still have AAU.
Oregon was joined to AAU, I want to say in the 60s. I can't remember exactly when.
Yeah.
So Oregon's about to lose their AAU status, like Nebraska.
Again, they need to figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
They're in, man. Why would they need to figure something out? They got in.
Yeah, but Nebraska got kicked out, though. So just because you're in, you still have to do what they asked you to do.
No, they're in the Power 2.
Yes,
I mean, they're
they
basically in the club. They're not getting kicked out. So
no, they're not getting kicked out. The Big Ten.
So yeah, like I mean, the Big Ten can say whatever they want, but they're going to be okay.
Absolutely. Ryan Willie has their idea. Georgia Tech.
Mm.
Ooh. Big 12 rivalry games should be Turkey Week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Holy War on late Thursday. Baylor, TCU, and Zona ASU. Doubleheader Friday. The rest on Saturday.
The problem that you have, you're also going up against the Egg Bowl. You're going up against Alabama, Auburn. You're going up against Michigan, Ohio State. So that weekend's already loaded up with rivals. So that's the reason why, like, the Holy War is in October. And yes, it was a late night game, but it got 2.5 million people to watch.
Yeah. And they're doing what they can do in the Big 12.
Yep.
You can't compete versus all the rivalry games on rivalry weekend. The game plus Iron Bowl are going to outdraw the Holy War and any other game too. So you need to figure out what the best week is you can plant that game. And you're going against big time games every week nowadays, but they're not rivalry games. Those are going to draw the biggest eyeballs, the biggest numbers. So you're just trying to be creative from the Big 12 standpoint.
Tempest joins us a little late. Hello, Mo and you, Daniel, with everyone else. He says, "Go Knowles." We'll give you some milk. You need some milk.
He needs some milk. He needs some milk.
Corey D is in the house. He says, "Can't they just prep for the game on a 3-hour flight? What's the difference of sitting in a film room?"
A lot of them do. A lot of them are set up next to position coaches, and they run through stuff while they're on that flight.
There you go. There you go. Just do your game prep in the airplane in the Big Ten.
Hey, you're making enough money. You can have private aircraft.
Most do.
I for a long time, I think the Big Ten should have invested in an airport in Chicago. BYU football, now the Big is using their athletes like guinea pigs, doing hundreds of millions of dollars in research on the effects of travel on student athletes. That is on-the-job training for professional sports. So, they're actually helping them.
Shonsky, this is the greatest comment you've ever made on our channel, in my opinion, because somebody in the Big Ten is going to actually do this analysis with research dollars. He's so nails on this one, and it's going to get the football team in trouble because they're going to say, "Oh, this has a really bad impact on your mental health, flying this many miles, get this few sleep. It's going to cause a stir. It's going to be from a Big Ten institution."
It's not the basketball team or football team, because they only do travel maybe 4 or 5 times a year. You're talking about your gymnastics. You're talking about your women's softball. You're talking about all this other stuff that a lot of times they'll fly commercial. So that right there, you can sit there and say, okay, let's say gymnastics, they fly 6 times a year. How's that going to affect different patterns of like rest, exercise, academics?
Absolutely.
Sergeant Pickle says, "How dare you? UW has 25 rowing titles and beat the Nazis for Olympic gold in 1936. Bow down to Washington." Jesse Owens.
Purple Dogs.
Jesse Owens in 1936.
I knew they had a lot of rowing titles. I didn't know it was 25. That's a
Pickles,
lot.
thank you for the education here. I didn't know. I was unaware. So I thought you were actually digging on Oregon. But I do have respect for this super chat. Thank you. And thank you for winning that Olympic gold in 1936 over
You know what else they have in Washington?
Germany.
Don't you?
From what I've heard, you're using your paper not for writing, but for rolling doobies.
You're rolling doobies up in Washington.
Next to a van down by the river.
How many Big Ten states have legalized marijuana? Speaking of rolling doobies, so you got California, you got Oregon, Washington, about
Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania,
Maryland.
I don't know. Maryland, Maryland definitely.
Maryland's,
New Jersey,
all
New
of them.
Jersey.
Huh?
I don't know. If
Indiana
Minnesota
has not. I can tell you right now, Indiana has not.
I don't know if Minnesota has. I know
Minnesota and Wisconsin, I'm not sure on. Iowa, I'm sure definitely hasn't.
Nebraska,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Not. No way in Nebraska. I would highly doubt Nebraska has. Minnesota's a toss-up, though. I have no idea.
Yeah,
but I'm surprised that Ohio has, Moan. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because Ohio voters had to vote it in.
They did the same thing in West Virginia a couple of years ago, and it was for medicinal use only originally. We all know how that works.
Shonsky says, let me know the results when you're finished. Hopefully it's best for the students. Hopefully not too many current athletes have long-term effects. Again, are they students or are they athletes or are they student athletes? Again, how are they classified? How are we classifying them now?
Especially considering the old NCAA rule was you couldn't do more than 20 hours of athletic instruction, athletic coaching. And originally they counted travel time in that. So now got a lot more travel time. You still want to coach those guys up.
How many football players actually go to class nowadays, guys? Like that's
Well,
I know it's like kind of silly, but like I'm serious about that.
No,
Like, do
I
we
mean,
actually
look,
have a lot of players that actually go to school?
What was the guy?
Between-
Who was the guy that said, "I'm not here to what was that? Play school. I'm here to play football."
that would be Cardale Jones, but
Thank you. Yeah.
in his defense, Cardale Jones did come back to college and earn his degree.
Yes.
There we go.
So he did come to play school. Ryan Willie says playing on Thursdays is bullshit. I agree with you, Ryan. That's why Ohio State shouldn't have to do it.
Well, I would love the Utes to play on Thursdays for more exposure. So
Problem is the NFL's now locked up that Thursday.
Yeah.
It used to be the Big East had that game, and man, WVU recruited heavy because of that Thursday night.
Virginia Tech has the same issue for AAU as Nebraska. Their hospital is in Roanoke.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't include that for your AAU research money.
Yeah, but there's so many AAU schools that don't have hospitals. Berkeley doesn't. They're not getting kicked out. UC Santa Barbara doesn't. They're not getting kicked out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Berkeley though. That's not Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, but Santa Barbara doesn't. They're an AAU school.
OPD Don says, I was pissed when the SEC moved the Egg Bowl off Thanksgiving Day. I agree with you 100%, Opie. It still drew 3+ million up against the NFL games. I 100%. Opie, I'm going to applaud that. As soon as I can find the applaud and cheer. There should be college football games on Thanksgiving Day.
That's a fun game
100%.
to watch too.
What's the genesis of the Egg Bowl name?
Okay, the original trophy that they gave, the football on it didn't look like a regulation football. It looked more like an egg. So they just called it the Egg Bowl. You understand, like this was done back in like the 30s or something like that. And next thing you know, the football didn't look quite right. It looked like an egg, and they just called it the
That's
Egg Bowl.
amazing. I'm going to find a picture of that shirt.
Tony Lawson lets us know Illinois versus Nebraska last year on Fox Friday night had 4.1 million viewers. Friday night big football is here to stay. Tony, as long as it's Illinois and Nebraska, not Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State.
As long as Fox is profitable with it. I could see you sitting there trying to find the picture of the trophy for the Egg Bowl.
I'm looking, guys. I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but I want it.
Tempa says rolling doobies, yo, puff puff pass. Ryan Willie lets us know Wisconsin has not legalized it yet. Ryan, I don't know why not. If Ohio can legalize it, I'd imagine Wisconsin got to be able to enjoy it up there a little.
You know, the last state's going to legalize it is Utah.
Yes.
It ain't happening anytime soon out here.
You've got medical marijuana out there, though, don't you?
Yeah, we do. Have
you do?
marijuana.
I didn't.
But like it's patrolled pretty strictly.
Yeah, I know. I've been out there before.
Yeah.
Well, I hope it comes to you soon, Ryan. I really do. MH Ortho 12 says scrap the show, Moen, because Big is going to 24. Okay.
Could happen.
Could happen. But right now, I'm going on 20. 20 makes the most sense. 20 lines up best in the scheduling.
It really depends on what Fox and NBC and CBS are willing to pay for.
Less than 1% of current athletes in college will see meaningful snaps in the NFL.
I didn't even think it was that high.
Yeah. And if they get drafted to Cleveland, that'll be even less.
True.
Stormy
guys.
Cyclone says marijuana grows wild in fence lines in Iowa and no need to make it legal. The Amish call it around here green corn.
Yep.
So, Mr. Gygax, that trophy that you're seeing on your screen sure looks like an egg.
Yep.
It does, like egg on a stick.
And if you look right there, the history, reason why they call it that is because of that trophy. And that's the only reason why I know that, because I worked with two guys from Mississippi at Travis Air Force Base, and they were explaining it to me. It's like, okay, I can understand. They kind of like made the football look weird.
Yeah, that's definitely an egg. That is not a football.
That's just an ugly trophy.
Yeah.
That's why I laugh at some schools pitching academics hard. A degree in butterflies isn't going far no matter where you get it. And do they even finish it or just portal? I feel for non-football athletes. I can tell you, if you're an Ohio State player and you've had some success and you get your degree, you will end up selling cars.
Stop it, Moen. How many dealerships are from Ohio State players out there in Columbus?
Lots.
What was that one guy back in the day that got busted for NIL because he got some money from a car dealership? Troy.
You're thinking of probably Maurice Claret.
Yeah,
He had a Hummer H2 with $10,000 worth of stereo in it, and the $10,000 worth of stereo was stolen out of his car. Reported it, and then the NCAA asked the question, how are you affording a $60,000 car with a $10,000 stereo? And yeah, like I said, Ohio State got sloppy.
Yeah, but I mean, for a lot of these guys, if they don't make it in the NFL, but they've had success at Ohio State, you can get a job at a car dealership and make $500,000 a year.
Yep.
Just off of commissions alone, because they basically, hey, you want to meet Craig Krenzel? Craig Krenzel will come out, shake your hand, show you the ring from 2002, and he will help you sign the papers for that brand new Lexus.
It's pretty brilliant, actually.
There's a lot of them. A lot of car dealerships have Ohio State players at them. A lot of farm dealerships have Ohio State players at them. What's the difference between hemp and hash? Well, hemp doesn't have a lot of THC in it, and hash has pretty much nothing but THC in it. I'd rather have KU over Utah in the Big Ten.
I can understand that because Kansas is still semi-regional.
Right, why you gotta do that, man? Come on.
Well, is it easier to drive from Wisconsin to Lawrence, Kansas, or all the way out to Salt Lake City?
Look,
I mean,
Wisconsin and
road trip.
Utah are spirit animals, guys. Spirit animals. You like it, Mr. Willie? I'm just telling you. Wisconsin and Utah are spirit animals. Very similar in a lot of ways. The direct comparison to Wisconsin is Utah. I've asked Florida Gator fans, and that's who they mocked up. So, spirit animals.
Tony Lawson reminds us you can't make rope out of hash. You can, but it's expensive fucking rope.
What the freak is that? What?
Let me explain. During World War II, the Navy had a video, and then they denied it, called Hemp for Victory. And they wanted all these farmers to grow hemp so they could have more rope for their ships during World War II, because they didn't have nylon, they didn't have polyester. It was all natural fibers. So that video was kind of hidden away. And then all of a sudden it was brought back in, I want to say 70s or something like that, 70s or 80s.
Hash is expensive, though. I'm going to tell you that. Yo, homie, how about buying this BMW? I'm telling you, man. And it's not just car dealerships. Basically, any job in Columbus, Ohio. If you played Ohio State football, I know several executives at Columbia Gas who played Ohio State football, and they're now executives at Columbia Gas. And every time the memorial is played, which is coming up just around the corner, they will be there glad handing everybody. Is APR even a thing any longer? Couldn't tell you.
It still is whenever it comes down to, like, let's say a 5-7 team qualifies for a bowl. They still have, it still counts for that, but not really.
Hash is like a tar kind. Yes, it's the sticky, icky. Rock and Rant says, do you really want to be a spirit animal with Wisconsin, dude?
Rock and Rant. It's been tough times out in Utah territory. And like in Wisconsin, it's been some tough times too. We will rise together. They are our spirit animal. Wisconsin Badgers and Utah Utes, spirit animals together. I want this. I like this. Same colors. It makes sense. Think about it. Like, just think about yourself. Like, if you had to mock Utah to a different school outside of the Big 12, who would you mock them to? Either in the past, it was either Oklahoma State or Wisconsin or Iowa, or a blend of three of those three. I like
Here's
Iowa's
the thing.
colors.
In Wisconsin, you can go almost anywhere and get a beer and not be a member of whatever club that you have to be a part of in Utah.
Well, you don't have to be a member anymore, Mr. Gygax.
I know they play loose on that rule.
Tony Washington wants to know if it's time to besmirch the Badgers. It is not. We have we do not besmirch mustelids here, unless they're Wolverines. Stormy Cyclone says, I thought the Beatles smoked all the rope. What animal I think it's an eagle, correct? Some kind of bird.
Yeah, exactly. It's a red hawk. The red hawk and the badger. Mm-hmm.
Cream or Led Zeppelin? Give me Cream all day. Led Zeppelin ripped off damn near every one of their songs.
Desirelli Gears is one of the great albums.
Absolutely. All right, guys, let's we'll round this down. We came on here, we gave a Wednesday show. I apologize we didn't come on and do a little more content this week. Oh, we got a super chat here from Ryan Willie. Wisconsin will crush Utah in 2028.
Ryan, why you do this to your spirit animal? Come on.
Where's that game at?
It's going to be a home and home.
No, in 28, is that going to be in Madison or Salt Lake?
I'm not sure about that one.
Okay.
But I promise you, I will be going out to Wisconsin when Utah plays at Wisconsin. 100%. I'll be going to that game.
You might have to let me know. I might go to that game too.
Moen, you want to go to the game?
Oh, dude, I've been to Wisconsin games. They're a blast.
Jump around, baby. That sounds so much fun. I would love to go to a Wisconsin game.
I'm a fat guy. I'm not jumping around, but I do like to drink.
Thank you, Ryan.
Anyway, thank you for the super chat, Ryan Willie. We'll go ahead and get you a little Conan Beth.
It's in Madison, Ryan.
See them driven before you. They hear the lamentation of the women.
What?
That's from you. Here, I'll give it to you again. We'll play it a little again.
To crush your enemies. See them driven before you. And they hear the lamentation of the women.
Is that Conan?
That's Conan the Barbarian. The
Yeah,
John
okay,
Milius.
okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The Lamentations.
Moen, how about 24 in the Big Ten? Notre Dame, Miami, Duke, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Utah, or Cal, depending on politics.
Stanford's not joining. They won't join the Big Ten Academic Alliance. As long as that Ivy League library system that they belong to, if they have to leave that, no.
Shonsky says he'll go with you, Wild Ute. I'm serious, or meet you there. I'm telling
the whole
you,
community come out to the Wisconsin-Utah game. We'll invite everybody.
It's one of those things, even if you're not a Wisconsin fan, it's a great experience to go to. Same thing with an Iowa game. I love to go to Iowa games. That third quarter wave they do to the Children's Hospital, awesome.
I've heard that Madison's a special place too, like a fantastic college campus, like great bar districts and everything. So I've heard great things about that.
Oh yeah, and I mean just hammer fist drunk. You.
Madison's basically one big keg.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Shower beers. You get up, have a beer in the shower. Soundboard is off the hook tonight. Absolutely. We'll give you with this one.
You take drugs, Danny?
Every day.
Good. So what's the problem?
I don't know.
Tony Lawson says Madison is hell on earth. But it is fun. Morgantown's another one of those great cities.
Oh yeah.
I tell people, hey, I've gone to see West Virginia games in Morgantown, man. Great atmosphere.
You can walk through the parking lot. They'll feed you and they'll give you a beer, and you'll meet new friends there, left, right, and sideways. It's
absolutely
fun.
Park at the Mountain Mall. Yeah.
Yep.
Even Ute fans? They
don't care. They really don't care.
Dude,
unless you're wearing a pit shirt, then then they don't.
Get yourself a 30 rack of Natty Light. You'll blend right in, dude.
Oh yeah.
Heck yeah.
All right. What any final comments, you?
Spirit animals. Always remember Wisconsin, Utah. Never forget.
How about you, Daniel?
Oh, that house settlement is a mess, and it's going to be even a bigger mess. And was it 14 days from now, we're going to be talking about, hey, they really messed up the house settlement.
Absolutely. And we will, Nate's going to do a little simulcast thing here tomorrow night, allegedly. So check that out. And then you and myself, we will see you guys on Friday for another big freaking Friday show. I want to thank everybody for coming out and taking a look at this. Again, leave comments. Let us know what you think of this scheduling format, what we can change. I'd love to do a simulation. I want to give special shout outs to Ryan Willie, Curtis, Stormy Cyclone, Opie, D-Don, Curtis and Ryan Willie again, and Sergeant Pickles and Ryan Willie again. Got a lot of Ryan Willie in there. We got a lot of Badgers going around here tonight. We got a lot of those muscle.
Give them the Badger sound. Can we get that Badger sound?
And we're going to end with the Badger. We will see you guys on Friday. Take it easy. Have a good evening. Peace out.